So it's been a month. Today is Sunday, October 20th, exactly a month since the iPhone 16 launch, meaning I've had my iPhone 16 Pro Max for 1 month today. And like I said in my unboxing video, it's now time for me to give my honest review on it. Since launch day, when I picked up this phone, I've been using it for absolutely everything. Photography, videography, media consumption, you name it. I've tested out everything there is to test on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And now that it's been a month, I think that I have enough knowledge to give my honest opinion on every single aspect of this gorgeous iPhone. Now, if you haven't already watched my unboxing video, go watch it. Link up in the top right and first link in the description. But in that video, I unboxed the iPhone 16 Pro Max along with the Apple clear case with MagSafe. If you watched that video, you know I said I bought the case to be able to say I had a case, but I really didn't have any intentions on using it. Well, just a day later, I realized I really did want a case on this phone. I love the feel of this bare, gorgeous grade 5 titanium, but at the same time, I might lose my mind if I manage to break this thing after just a couple days of owning it. So I put the clear case back on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and after just a couple hours, I realized I did not like it. I loved Apple's clear case with MagSafe on my iPhone 14 Pro. That was a smaller device that I was able to grip easier in my hand. Don't get me wrong, this phone fits much better in my hand, but an iPhone with a 6.1-inch display is much easier to keep a grip on. That slippery clear case didn't really matter, but on a phone this size, it just made it a little difficult to hold on to. So the day after launch day, Saturday the 21st, I went down to the Apple store and I picked up the Apple silicone case in the black color. It has fallen just a couple of times, has a couple of marks on it. Overall, this case is still in great shape, and since I got it, I would rate this a 10 out of 10. It does most definitely get a little bit oily over time. This is after trying my best to clean it off before this video. It's quite a grippy case, and as someone who doesn't exactly drop their phone very often, I don't need much protection. It feels great, doesn't stick to your pockets very much, and in my opinion is considerably better than the clear case. Now back to the phone. You didn't come here to hear me yap about an iPhone case. Time for the big guy, the phone itself. First, I want to start off by talking about the gorgeous display on this phone. The iPhone 16 Pro Max comes equipped with a gorgeous 6.9-inch display, which is an increase over last year's 6.7-inch display. The iPhone 16 Pro also got this 0.2-inch display size increase as well, bringing the display size of the iPhone 16 Pro from 6.1 inches on the iPhone 15 Pro up to a new 6.3-inch display for the iPhone 16 Pro. Now, 0.2 inches isn't a very big difference, but on a phone that's already absolutely gigantic like the iPhone 15 Pro Max with a 6.7-inch display, bumping that up even the tiniest bit to 6.9 inches really does make a big difference. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is almost like holding a tablet in your hand, and I've heard a lot of mixed feelings about the size of the display. I personally really like the size of this phone and have zero complaints. Yes, it may be slightly difficult to use one-handed, although when I really do need to, I can manage to get it done. You see, moving from an iPhone with a 6.1-inch display after longing for a larger screen, having a screen like this is like a dream come true. Like I said, absolutely zero complaints about the size of this thing. And with that display size increase came some absolutely ridiculously small bezels. I wish I had an iPhone 15 or 14 Pro to compare this to, but it is seriously unbelievable to see in person. The video does it no justice. The display panel itself is a 2868 by 1320 OLED display at a PPI of 460. Of course, the iPhone 16 Pro Max comes with a dynamic island, the always-on display, the ProMotion technology, which means your display has a refresh rate of 120 Hertz, which in my opinion really should be the standard on all new smartphones these days. Another new pointer with the iPhone 16 Pro Max display is its new higher maximum brightness and lower minimum brightness. The minimum brightness for the iPhone 16 Pro Max is now a whopping 1 singular nit with a maximum 2000 nit outdoor peak brightness. Speaking of outdoor brightness, you may have just thought about display dimming under hot conditions, but I'll get to that in a couple minutes. Watching HDR content on this display has been absolutely incredible, and I've actually found myself using it to enjoy content more than I have found myself using my iPad in the past month. Next, I want to do a little bit of talking about Apple's gorgeous triple camera setup on the back of the iPhone 16 Pro Max. This year, Apple is calling the 48 megapixel main sensor their, quote, all new fusion camera. In reality, it is practically the exact same camera as the one on the iPhone 14 Pro, just under a new name. Of course, it is a little bit larger, which will make photos look the tiniest bit sharper, but it's not really anything you're gonna notice. This year, the telephoto camera has been bumped up to a whopping 48 megapixels as previously on the iPhone 15 series and earlier, it was a 12 megapixel camera. This has drastically improved the sharpness of the ultra-wide camera, and I've actually found myself using it quite a bit more than I previously had on my old phone due to the much sharper images that it produces. This year, Apple has brought the 5x telephoto camera to the regular iPhone 16 Pro as well, which was first introduced last year with the iPhone 15 Pro Max only. The iPhone 15 Pro only had the same 3x telephoto camera as the iPhone 14 Pro. This means you of course have your 0.5 zoom, 1x, 2x, and 5x with zoom options up to 25 times digital zoom. And this year with Apple's new, quote, Fusion camera, you have 3 different focal length options with the main sensor at 1x zoom. First, you have the default, which is 24 millimeters. You also have 28 millimeters, and you can bump it up to 35 millimeters, which essentially brings the zoom to 1.5x. It's cool, but it's not something that I've actually found myself using. Overall, the camera system is absolutely incredible, but compared to my last phone, the iPhone 14 Pro, it is most definitely quite similar. The 5x telephoto camera is something that I really enjoy. One thing I didn't love about my 14 Pro was having a 3x option as my furthest optical zoom, so the 5x is definitely nice. But other than that, I haven't really noticed too much different about the camera. But with the camera comes Apple's all-new camera control button. Yes, I'm gonna call it a button. Apple insists that this isn't a button, although I beg to differ, as although it may have some haptic features, it does click, which in my eyes pretty much makes it a button. Now, the all-new camera control button doesn't only just bring a new button to control the camera, it also gives you access to so many more customization options when it comes to the camera, and this is where Apple's cameras actually get upgraded this year. The physical sensors didn't change way too much, but the options that you have in the camera application have increased quite a bit. Unfortunately, this is only available on devices with the camera control button, which is the iPhone 16 series, but it would be really nice if Apple would bring these new customization options like the tone and styles to older devices in a different submenu. But my honest opinion on the camera control button, or whatever you would like to refer to it as, I think it is interesting at best. I've found myself using it a few times to zoom in and out and quickly be able to change stuff like the styles or the tone. Other than that, it's not very useful, and I haven't found myself using it at all when in portrait mode, as it's just really oddly placed when in that position. Another downside with the camera control button is that I would definitely agree that for people who are kind of tech illiterate, it's not going to be very easy for them to learn how to use. I mean, press in lightly once to bring up the zoom menu, press lightly twice to bring up the sub menu, and click to take a photo. I can most definitely see some people messing that up. Like I said, overall, the camera control button on the iPhone 16 series is at best interesting. I've used it a few times, but have not found myself using it whatsoever when in portrait mode. I've gone through quite a few of the photos that I took with the iPhone 16 Pro Max and picked out a few of my favorites to display the iPhone 16 Pro Max's camera abilities. Starting off kind of basic, here is just a simple photo of a lighthouse that I took with the standard style. Switching over to the dramatic style with a little bit of configuration, we get a photo with a much more pigmented sky and almost a cartoon look. These two so far are some of my favorites that I've captured with this device. Next, we have a bit of a random sunset photo that I took in the heat of the moment from a rooftop of a hotel, and this was taken with the all-new 48 megapixel ultra-wide camera. Like I've said, I found myself using this a lot more with the higher quality photos that it produces. Zooming in, of course, this photo is not in RAW, so you are going to see a little bit of blurring. Compared to a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera, zooming in this far is something you would not previously be able to do. Impressive to say the least. When it comes to videography on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, Apple has now given you the option to record HD video, not slow motion, at 120 frames per second. Kind of incredible. Now, even though I've had this phone for a month, I have not had the chance to test this out yet, but if I get around to making a separate battery and camera test video, I will definitely show an example of this. Along with that, they've also given the option of 4K 120 frames per second slow motion recording, which is definitely something that I will be testing out quite soon. And like I said, if I make a camera and battery test video, it will be shown off there. Now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the all-new A18 Pro chip in the iPhone 16 Pro series. The A18 Pro chip comes with an all-new 6-core CPU with 2 performance and 4 efficiency cores, a new 6-core GPU, and a 16-core neural engine. Absolutely ridiculous. And this new system on a chip that comes in the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max is what makes this phone absolutely overkill for 90% of the users. I hate to say it, but Apple has evolved to the point where their latest and greatest phones are overkill for most iPhone users. Back to the review though. My experience with the A18 Pro chip has been absolutely incredible. Not a single time have I experienced any sort of lagging, freezing, or ghosting. Not that you'd expect that on a nearly $1,500 phone, but even when playing demanding games such as CSR Racing 2 or Asphalt or Infinite Flight, I have not experienced any issues whatsoever. And now one thing I do want to also talk about while I'm at it is the topic of overheating. This year, Apple has completely reworked the internals of the iPhone 16 Pro series to hopefully address overheating issues and fix thermal throttling. And this has most definitely made an improvement. I have noticed absolutely zero overheating in the month that I've been using this phone, which is kind of impressive, as my last phone, the iPhone 14 Pro, would overheat when trying to FaceTime and listen to music at the same time. FaceTime almost took its life a couple times, I'll be honest. Oftentimes, with previous iPhone generations, when outside in the heat, the iPhone's display would regularly end up dimming because the phone would begin to overheat because of the hot conditions. So far, with the iPhone 16 Pro Max, I have only experienced the display drastically dimming in heat about 3 times over the course of a month, which I would say is considerably better than my last phone, as the iPhone 14 Pro would overheat when being outside in 70-degree weather for more than 10 minutes. With the A18 Pro chip comes the support for Apple Intelligence, and as of right now, with iOS 18.1 Beta 7, I have an initial set of features that I will display in a couple of minutes. Now let's talk a little bit about the battery on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is rated at up to 33 hours of constant video playback, 29 hours if that video playback is streamed, up to 105 hours of audio playback, which is absolutely nuts. From my personal experience, when I get up in the morning around 7 a.m. and unplug my phone at 100% battery, by the time it's 11 p.m., the phone is only around 25 to 30%. My last phone, the iPhone 14 Pro, would need a little bit of a boost around 5 p.m. when the phone got down to 5%. And I'm not a very light user of my phone. I'm constantly using it for something, whether that be music, video streaming, or photography. It never gets a break. So I am genuinely impressed by how long the battery on the iPhone 16 Pro Max lasts me on average. Definitely a major increase from my previous device. Now, speaking of power, the iPhone 16 Pro series now supports Qi 2 wireless charging up to 15 watts and MagSafe wireless charging up to 25 watts. The iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max comes with the USB-C charging port that has USB 3.0 with speeds up to 10 gigabytes per second. It also supports DisplayPort, which is pretty cool. Now, just real quick, I want to talk a little bit about the gorgeous design of the iPhone 16 Pro series. The iPhone 16 Pro is made out of gorgeous grade 5 titanium and comes in 4 beautiful colors. Here I have natural titanium, which is a bit lighter and more gold colored than the natural titanium on the iPhone 15 Pro series. You also have desert titanium, which is more of a pale gold color. White titanium, which, you guessed it, is white. And black titanium, even darker than last year's black titanium. Absolutely gorgeous, and a color that I almost bought if I'm being honest. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is extremely light when compared to a stainless steel Pro Max iPhone like the iPhone 14 Pro Max, as titanium is drastically lighter and makes a huge difference when holding it in your hand or having it in your pocket. When switching from the 14 Pro to the 16 Pro Max, I'll be honest, I haven't noticed very much of a weight difference at all. That shows really how big of a difference the titanium makes. The sides of the iPhone 16 Pro Max are semi-reflective and very slightly polished titanium. Meanwhile, the iPhone 15 Pro series had a brushed finish on the titanium. I personally prefer the new, slightly polished finish. The brushed finish looked nice, but I just think this feels more premium. The natural titanium color is a little bit of a fingerprint magnet on the sides. Not sure if you're able to tell on video, but it's absolutely nothing when compared to a stainless steel iPhone. I mean, this is just absolutely unbearable. And lastly, like I said earlier, I would talk at least a little bit about Apple Intelligence. So as of right now, the latest beta version of iOS 18 is iOS 18.1 Beta 7, which of course includes that first initial set of Apple Intelligence features, compatible with the iPhone 15 Pro, Pro Max, and all iPhone 16 models. As of right now, the only features you have access to powered by Apple Intelligence are a slightly better Siri, the new Siri animation, of course, notification stack summaries, which unfortunately I don't have any notifications to display this with. Here's a screenshot from a little while back though. And also summaries in the Mail app, which I'm not going to display as I don't really know what all is in my junk-filled iCloud inbox. As of right now, Apple Intelligence really doesn't have that much. There's also writing tools, which I have used, I think, twice just to mess around with and have not touched since. The writing tools give you options to proofread or rewrite the sentence you've selected. It can also rewrite it to be friendlier, more professional, or more concise. It can also make a summary of something you've selected, pick key points out of it, make a list of different things, or even a table. Now I'm gonna give a bit of a funny example of something the writing tools wasn't designed to do, but is most definitely capable of doing. I'll have it rewrite a somewhat unkind sentence to be more friendly. It'll say that it's not designed to work with this type of content. We'll continue anyway, and you'll see a quick example of how it works. It's interesting to say the least, but I haven't found myself using it for a real-world example yet. This initial set of Apple Intelligence features will be released to the public with iOS 18.1, hopefully very soon, as we're about 2/3 of the way through October. But the full launch of Apple Intelligence isn't expected until iOS 18.4 in the spring of 2025. It's unfortunate, but of course, you'll get access to it a bit earlier if you're running the developer beta, most likely closer to the end of winter. So overall, this has been my review of the iPhone 16 Pro Max, 1 month later. After a month of usage, which is more than enough for me to give an honest review, I have enjoyed this phone more than words can express. Compared to my previous iPhone 14 Pro, this thing is like a dream. The bigger display is absolutely incredible. These tiny bezels are something that's honestly hard to believe is possible. And stuff like the action button and USB-C charging have just made things so much more convenient with this phone. When it comes down to the question, do I regret upgrading? That is a very hard no. Upgrading to this phone was one of the best decisions I've made, and I plan to keep this phone for a minimum of 3 years, as I don't really see any reason in the future I would need to upgrade within the next 3 years. But another question is the iPhone 16 Pro Max worth upgrading to? That depends on what you currently have, and that is something you need to decide for yourself. I don't think I can say that for you. I hope this review helps you in deciding whether or not you wanted to upgrade or not, or just gave you a little insight about what's new. Whatever your purpose of watching this review video was for, I hope you enjoyed it nevertheless. And if you're new to my channel, I would ask you to please consider hitting that subscribe button, as of right now, only 1.1% of my viewers are subscribed to my channel, which is kind of unbelievable. This is mainly because my iPhone 16 Pro Max unboxing video did as well as it did, bringing in 153,000 views, almost 6,000 hours of watch time, and almost 500 subscribers, which is absolutely unbelievable. I want to thank you guys so much for all the support on this video. This is something that I honestly can't even believe, and has really made my childhood dream of running a successful YouTube channel come true. And thank you guys so much for almost 5,800 subscribers. This is absolutely incredible. I don't even know what to say. Anyways, I've said enough. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I really hope you enjoyed it for whatever reason you watched it. Maybe it helped you decide whether you're gonna buy one of these, or maybe you were just bored and wanted to listen to me yap about the new iPhone. Anyways, I've said enough. Comment, like, and subscribe. And as always, peace out, guys.